Hello and welcome to the Hoopers Dimension Podcast. It's your boy Ernest, the host of the Hoopers Dimension Podcast. And obviously the NBA season has started 2 days ago. But before we get right into the podcast, I just want to apologize for missing Wednesday. I did say that I would be uploading the podcast every Wednesday and Sunday, and I will be trying to keep that promise. And I was just busy with family. I was out with some personal family stuff. We went out to dinner. So yeah, I didn't really have time. And I also sadly didn't have time to watch any of the games last night, which really bummed me out. But I definitely watched some highlights, watched some tape of it, read all the reviews, read all the players, looked at the stats, that. But yeah, again, don't take everything I say about the players as seriously since I wasn't able to watch the games. But yeah, because a lot of people lie or over exaggerate how many games they watch, and it really affects how much knowledge they have about basketball. But yeah, just to get right into it, before we even talk about the games and opening night, right after I uploaded the podcast on Sunday where I was talking about the contracts, I pretty much got proven wrong since both Brown and Buddy Hield signed contracts the very next day. So there were four really major contract signings that I want to talk about, or extensions rather. First we'll just get right into it and talk about Sabonis's contract extension. So first off, so Domantas Sabonis, obviously a very great player for this Pacers, if you don't know. Um, and he just got a 4 year, $79 million extension, which is 79 million divided. Oh man, I'm sorry I can't do math by four. Um, about 19 million a year, which I think is very nice for Sabonis. Obviously, Sabonis came off the bench last year for the Pacers, was one of the biggest candidates. I'm sorry about that. Was one of the biggest candidates for Six Man of the Year last year, outside of obviously somebody like obvious ones, Trez and Lou Will. But yeah, he was a very big candidate for I said Rookie of the Year, Six Man of the Year. He was very good off the Pacers' bench. But he did start last night, which is very interesting. He played 36 minutes. He was 73% from the field. He scored 27 points and 13 rebounds. He had a beast of a game. So just really proving how he how he wants that contract. He did have 5 fouls though, which is but yeah. Um he has a really nice mid-range game. He's really good at just banging people up, getting boards, scoring in the paint. He's really reliant, really consistent, and he's just going to be super important for this Pacer team moving forward. And he's only 23. He has so much upside, so much he can do, and he's son to Arvid, the NBA legend. Well, not really NBA legend, but he's very important to international basketball. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Domantas Sabonis' dad. Just do some research about him. He's very, very important to international basketball. And yeah, he's a very, very good player. But Sabonis, again, he had 27, 13, 73% from the field. Didn't miss a free throw either, which is always nice to see. And yeah, I think he definitely deserves a $19 million contract. I think that's perfect for him. I think it's really nice that he's just going to be secured on this Pacers team. He just matches it so well. I feel like his personality matches it. And yeah, this is overall a win for both sides. He gets his 19 mil. Pacers lock up a great, solid player. And yeah, um, that's really nice. That's really nice. The next contract we are going to talk about is DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray obviously is a point guard for the Spurs. He is out of Washington, I believe. Yes, he is out of Washington. Um, he had made an all defensive team in his second year in the NBA, which is just amazing. That's spectacular. And in more than half of those games, he came off the bench. And just think about that for a second. A second year NBA 21-year-old rookie came off the bench and made an all defensive team. Most great defenders, some of the greatest defenders like Sean Marion, Mookie Baylock, didn't even make that many all defensive teams. And this man made it in his second year. And obviously he got a very unfortunate torn ACL. But yeah, he is back this season. He had a very nice debut. with 18 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting 70% from the field, 100% from three, 100% from the free throw line. And obviously that's really nice. He's not known for being a shooter at all, though. He took one attempt to make it, but yeah, that's nice. And he did this all in 24 minutes. But again, he is very, very consistent. He's always going to just give you what you need. And he's just a great player, especially for this Spurs team. And yeah. But again, he got a 4-year, $64 million, and a 4 divided by 64, so $60 million per year, which is also very nice for DeJounte Murray. This man is only 23 years old. He has a lot going for him. He's on a great organization. And yeah, he'll even pick up some mid-range game from DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. And this guy was the 29th overall pick, which is crazy that he's getting paid this much, that he's this good at being only the 29th overall pick. So shout out to DeJounte Murray for getting his bag. Shout out to the Spurs for locking up a great point guard who can be a backup, he can start. So yeah. In last night's game, he did start. He did start in last night's game. So yeah. The next contract we can talk about is the most actually, no, we'll talk about Buddy Hield next. We'll save the best for last, I guess you could say. Next we have Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield got a 4-year, $94 million contract, which totals out to around $23.5 million, which I think is very funny, because the Kings initially offered him $22.5 million, and don't get me wrong, $1 million is a lot of money, but it's sort of funny that minimal difference made him sign with the Kings. And I thought that he might hold out, test the waters with free agency, but he did not. And he does have the potential. He has the opportunity to have his contract total out to $106 million with certain contract bonuses. Some of these contract bonuses can be stuff like, averaging a certain amount of points, making an all-star team, making an all-NBA team. And if he fills out some of those averages, he can get extra money, and it can be $106 million. I don't know if he'll be able to get all of them. I'm not sure on the specifics of them, but yeah, I think that's really good. Buddy Hield, I feel like last season he was the best player on this Kings team, especially during the second half of last season. He was really keeping that Kings team together. He was really very important, just because you see young teams have a very strong start to the season, and then by the All-Star break, by January, they start to slow down. Their body says, hold up, my muscles just can't move, and they really just start to struggle. But Buddy Hield was really consistent. He was really pushing for the Kings to make the playoffs. And last night he played really, really well, getting 28 points, shooting 52% from the field, 50% from three on 12 attempts. So he made 6 threes. And he shot 100% from the free throw line, and that's always a plus. He's such a good ball handler. He has such a silky smooth jumper. He's a good set shooter, spot up shooter, but he also can create one too. His defense is on and off, and it can be solid. But yeah, overall, he's really, really good, really important to this Kings team. And when De'Aaron Fox has his off nights, as he does a lot, since a lot of young point guards are inconsistent. When De'Aaron Fox has his off nights, Buddy Hield is always there to just save them, pick them up, and just keep them going. And I think that's really, really, really nice. 23 mil, I think that's definitely worth it. He is 26, so he's definitely still young, but by the time of his contract, he'll be in his 30s. But for him, for his type of game, he'll be very, very good. He'll be very, very good for a long time. So yeah. Next, we have to talk about one of the most controversial contracts, caused an outrage on Twitter, probably trending. Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is getting paid 4 years, $115 million. That is about $28.75 million per year, and that is a lot of money. That's more than Joel Embiid. That's more than a lot of stars. That's approaching that max deal, that 5-year, 170 million deal. And obviously, and today is actually Jaylen Brown's birthday. So shout out to him. Happy birthday, Jaylen Brown. Happy birthday for getting your bag. He also is from Marietta, Georgia, which is not too far from where I live. Shout out McDonough, Georgia. But I think it is crazy that the Celtics would make another bonehead bag contract and give Jaylen Brown this much money. Last podcast, you heard me praising Jaylen Brown, how I think he can have a breakout season. One of my bold predictions is that he would even be an all-star. But I still don't think he should make more money than Buddy Hield. I don't think he should make – I don't know if it's a guarantee that he should make more money than Sabonis. He should definitely not be making more money than Joel Embiid. He is getting paid $27 million. Not to mention the Celtics are paying Gordon Hayward $30 million. And while I do think Gordon Hayward can definitely bounce back from that very tough injury, that is still crazy, man. Jaylen Brown, I love you. You have so much potential of being a great finisher, of just being a great basketball player, but you are overpaid. And a lot of people say you deserve your money, blah, blah, blah. I just do not think personally, if I was a GM of an NBA team, I would never give Jaylen Brown this much money. And call me crazy, call me stupid, but I think it's pretty realistic. And obviously, it's the first game. It doesn't set the tone for the season, but he did have 8 points and 7 rebounds. He shot very nice from the field, except for free throw. He shot 33%, which is not good at all. But yeah, it was just, that was a little crazy. That is a little crazy. And since we're sort of done with that, and we're speaking of Jaylen Brown saw his old teammate, Al Horford, in a different jersey last night. And that was a smooth, silky transition, so we can get right into the games that we had last night. First, we can talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons had an amazing night. He was just being Ben Simmons. 24 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. And he just had a really, really nice game. Joel Embiid, he got popped in the mouth, I believe, and drew blood, and that was a little crazy. But Joel had 15 and 13, which is definitely solid. And yeah, there were a lot of fouls. There were 60 fouls on both sides. It really did have that playoff atmosphere. I felt like it was. And I said how I didn't watch the games, but I definitely saw a lot of tape from it, a lot of highlights and stuff like that. And even then, it was really intense. Had a lot of playoff just type things. But yeah, the Sixers, they had a very nice fourth quarter and turned it around. And before the fourth quarter, the Sixers had missed 21 out of 24 threes. So that's not good at all, obviously. And even though all we know is Ben Simmons, he sucks, he can't shoot, blah, 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 blah. He balled out. He played amazing. He was the best player on the court. And he was showing why he deserved that big hump of cash. Gordon Hayward, he had a very nice game. He was just being Gordon Hayward. He's such a high IQ, smart player. He's so good at getting to the rim. He's so agile. He has such a nice ball handler for his size. And I feel like he's really getting comfortable, really getting back into it after he suffered such a gruesome injury. And Kemba, 12 points on 4 of 18 shooting. And that's obviously not the best. But yeah, it was tough. But that doesn't define the whole season. Kemba is still a great player. He's still a great scorer. And just because he had one off game doesn't mean I think he's trash or anything. And yeah. Walker, as I mentioned, Jason Tatum, he also struggled. He was 8 of 22 from the field. And while field goal percentage isn't the best, he definitely had some suspect shot selection, and yeah, it was sort of just a little messy, if I'm being honest. But yeah, overall, it was a really solid game. The Sixers took the big W after a huge fourth quarter resurgence, and yeah, Speaking of Al Horford, I don't have anything to transition into the next game. Sorry. I disappointed so many people. And instead of talking about Wednesday's game, what happened yesterday, we're going to be talking about Tuesday's game. A game that I did get to see was the Raptors versus the Pelicans. And this game was exciting, people. It was a very, very good game. It was a very, very good game. Um, so let me just pull up my notes on the game, that I always take. The Raptors starting five was Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry, OJ Anunoby, Siakam, Marc Gasol. And the Pelicans starting five was Lonzo Ball, JJ Redick, Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, and Derek Favors. First, the game was very, very, very fast. Both teams were playing very quick. There was a lot of bad, messy turnovers. They were just playing so quick. It was like they were playing ping pong with possessions, and they would just go from back and forth, running around. Felt at sometimes almost like preliminary rec league games where the ball would just get swinged around like 6 times. It felt like that at sometimes. It was crazy. The defense was pretty solid from both sides, especially for today's NBA and for how advanced the spacing is today. But something about the Pelicans, they had a very interesting starting five. And I know Lonzo's numbers might not have been the best. They might not have been like perfect. But just from what I saw in my first impression, he looked like a very much more confident and improved ball handler, better shooter, and just a better overall player. He was making great passes, as Lonzo Ball always does. He was making amazing passes. And he was just pushing the ball in transition, playing good defense. He was nice off the pick and roll. And he was just really playing well. And I know he shot 28% from the field, but he did shoot 2 of 3 from the three-point line, shot 2 of 2 from the free throw line. And I think he's only going to improve. Obviously, I think, and I also think that it is ridiculous to call Lonzo Ball a bust. He is nowhere close to a bust, people. Lonzo Ball is by far, he's one of the best defending guards in this league. He's one of the best passers in this league. And obviously, we've seen his struggles. There are some things that we've obviously seen his struggles as a terrible shooter. We've seen his struggles of being a pick and roll ball handler. We've seen his struggles at his finishing. All of this, but he is still gonna prove all of his doubters wrong this season, and I am sure of that. I am 100% positive. And another interesting thing I saw, Alvin Gentry's rotation was very suspect to me. Lonzo played 24 minutes. He missed out on most of the second half. And I feel like there were some times that they really could have used some good guard defense to slow down Fred VanVleet. And switching back over to the Raptors, Fred VanVleet was on fire. This man was finishing great. He was just making great plays. He was creating well. He was passing the ball well too. And he was just awesome off the pick and roll. And he had some smooth, really silky finishes. And he had some Fred VanVleet signature 32 feet away from the basket, just shooting it with a defender in his mouth and just wetting it, just still making it. And it's crazy. But Fred VanVleet balled out. And to transition again to the Pelican side, someone who didn't ball out was Derek Favors. Derek Favors, as an interior defender, that game was getting cooked. He was getting grilled every single time by Pascal Siakam, by OG Anunoby, by Kyle Lowry, by whoever. They were just getting into the paint easily, scoring. And it was sort of a mess to me. It was something I noticed. Derek Favors only played 20 minutes. Shout out to you, Derek Favors, but play better interior defense, man. Something else for the Pelicans, Nickeil Walker-Alexander. Now, he was missing a lot of shots. He shot 10% from the field and 14% from three. But I've watched a lot of basketball. I've never seen a rookie come in so confident onto the court. He came into the court, and first play, he's shooting. He chucked it. I don't want to say chucked because that sort of implies it was a bad shot, but he was fearless. Anytime he was open, he did not hesitate at all. He is such a tenacious defender. He is just so amiable on the court. He is so exciting. He is so just ready to shoot. He's so just I love his energy on the court. And obviously, he's going to struggle from the field. 1 from 10. He only scored 3 points. But I just love the energy from the young fella. And if I had any advice to him, it would just be to keep shooting. Because eventually his shot is going to fall. He's got drafted for a reason. And just him losing his confidence, I don't see happening anyway. So I don't think I have to tell him to keep on shooting. Lonzo, again, he was really pushing the pace. Something that I really saw for most of the first half when Lonzo was in the game and just sort of the Pelicans offensive sets, I guess, Drew Holiday was barely getting touches, which was the craziest thing because Drew Holiday is such a good player. He's the best player on that Pelicans team. And he is a borderline all-star. He's an all-defensive level player. He's very, very capable on the offensive end, but he was getting absolutely no touches. Lonzo was really dominating the ball. Brandon Ingram was getting more touches than him, especially during that first half. And while I do think Lonzo needs to improve as being an off-ball player, I don't think that he can not be effective with the ball's not in his hands because I think he's so smart as just a basketball player. I think he'll know where he needs to get open. I think he'll know when he needs to set an off-ball screen. And I think he can really develop that over the season. And I would love to see Alvin Gentry try to really implement Drew Holiday and Lonzo Ball playing together, both of them getting their touches with them being on the court at the same time. Because that defensive lineup, Drew Holiday and Lonzo Ball is scary. And Brandon Ingram dropped 22 points on decent efficiency, but I loved how much he was in his bag at sometimes. His shots weren't always falling, and he really could have at some points he really did sort of send the Pelicans into a drought, which pushed the Raptors to their little 6-0 runs type of thing. But yeah, he was really confident. He looks like a very nice ball handler. He looks like he really gets to show his skill set. He really gets to show what he's capable of, and I love it. And I can't wait until he plays the Lakers and LeBron because I feel like he's going to drop 40 and put that in the history books because I feel like Ingram is going to go off against him. I feel like he's going to be in his bag. He's just going to show everything that he can do without LeBron and everything he's missing out on. And overall, the Pelicans played a very solid game. Jackson Hayes got 0 minutes, which I thought was a little bit surprising. Even Kenrick Williams, Eton Moore, Okafor, Melly got minutes over him. But speaking of Melly, he was amazing. He was 4 or 5 from 3. The Raptors did not want to guard that man. He was making – it just felt like anytime he touched the ball, the shot went in. And that was really just true. He was just some great production off the bench. I know he played in Turkey, I believe. And, yeah, that was just great to see. Another thing to talk about was Toronto. OG Anunoby, he looks like a very improved ball handler, something we didn't get to see from him a lot. He was really putting the ball on the floor, especially around that baseline area. He had some nice finishes. Siakam, he was just being Siakam. He was amazing in the paint. He was amazing at getting to the paint. He was being a very good creator, and he was very, very shifty and nifty at getting to boards. But he did foul out. He needed to stay out of foul trouble. And, yeah. Marc Gasol, he looked really slow. He just looked really slow out there. It looked like Father Time was catching up to him. He looks like the 35-year-old man I believe he is. And, yeah, that was a little scary. But Kyle Lowry, I know he shot 26% from the field, but Kyle Lowry was not that bad. And here's my case why. I feel like he was creating pretty well for the Raptors guards. I feel like he was making some pretty good passes. I feel like he was missing shots that he could usually make. And I feel like he was getting to the free throw line very, very well. Went to the free throw line 13 times, made 11 of them, which is very solid, which is where half of his 22 points came from. And, yeah, obviously he definitely struggled from the field, but he did what he needed to do to win. And that's all that really needed to be done. Serge Ibaka, he didn't get a lot of minutes, not as many minutes as I would have thought. He also struggled at some times, but he was just looking solid. Someone who I do want to talk about is Terrence Davis. This guy was so tenacious on the court. He was so energetic. He sort of has that Nikhil Walker type of vibe. He was fearless. He was playing really good defense, that type of thing. And I really love that. But something else I think that's interesting is the Raptors have a eight-man lineup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8-man lineup, which is interesting. They do have some other decent players, or some players who I think I could be decent. Most notably being Stanley Johnson, but I guess they're gonna have to earn and improve to get their minutes. But I think this is gonna be really. I think that's a really big no-no from Nick Nurse, because having Kyle Lowry play 44 minutes, 35 minutes from OG, 38 from Siakam, and obviously this game did go into overtime, but just having an 8-man rotation is going to push your players a lot. And I think for a 35-year-old Marc Gasol and a 34, 33, just aging Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, who are already running low on gas in the tank, I think just having them play so many minutes that they're probably going to have to play this season is a little suspect. But, yeah. Also, we have the Lakers game. And to be honest, the game was very interesting. It was a fun game, but, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about it. Obviously, we saw the Lakers. AD really struggled from the field. LeBron was making some bad decisions, and he was just, it looked like Father Time caught up to him out there. And it also looked like it looked like he was struggling a lot. But Danny Green was great that game. Kawhi was very great that game. And I think that was a very nice game. It's fun to talk about. It was decently fun to watch. But I want to be able to just talk about these teams that, I might not be able to talk about a whole lot during the season. But the final 3 games we will be talking about is the Nets, the Magic, and the Mavericks. So first off, the Nets. Kyrie Irving went off for 50 points in his Brooklyn Nets debut. I think everybody is going to just hate Kyrie Irving coming into the season. Obviously, he had that atrocious, abysmal playoff performance last year. But I do not think that one playoff series should define a player in most contexts like that. And I don't think that series defines Kyrie Irving as a player. I don't think that he's some inefficient, bad leader, shot chucker. I think he was in a very complex situation. And don't get me wrong, he did play poorly, but I don't think that defines him. And this man hooped. He was cooking. He was cooking the Minnesota Timberwolves defense. He was filleting. His dribbling and fluidness off the pick and roll was so nice. He was hitting his threes. He was just amazing. His mid-range game looked silky. His finishing looked nice. And he was showing us why Kyrie Irving is one of the most elite scorers in the league, because he is so good from so many places. And that is just what Kyrie Irving does. Towns also had 36 points. He had a very, very nice game too, and it's Towns. He's very obviously last season he got to a very slow start. To see him start out like this is really good and is also very promising for the Timberwolves. Andrew Wiggins struggled, but he did hit what would end up being the game-winning shot, so you can't just take too much away from him. But yeah, that game was very fun. And shout out to Kyrie Irving for hooping so well. Next, we have the Magic game. And this game, I really want to talk about Markelle Fultz. Fultz was, oh my gosh, he was so nice for this debut. Markelle Fultz was so smooth, and he just looked like an NBA player. He didn't look like the Markelle Fultz we saw a while ago. He was really smart off the pick and roll and always made the right play. He showed nice acceleration, explosiveness, and transition. He had a nice little dunk. He was great at finishing and hits his nice short-range shots. And there was just so much promise from his whole performance. And he gave you 12 and 6 in only like 23 minutes. He did go 0 of 3 from 3, which is a little suspect, but he played great. Another thing I just want to mention before I end the podcast is Kendrick Nunn went off for 24 points. So shout out to him. He's hooping. He's really earning his spot. He's just came out of nowhere, and I love the story like that. And Justice Winslow, who in my bold predictions I said would have a quadruple double, went off for 27, 7, and 7. So he is gonna get that quadruple double sometime in the season, maybe, possibly. Bold predictions. And after that, I really just want to end the podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Hoopers Dimension podcast. It's been your host, Ernest. Tune in next Sunday, and goodbye.